Hey Hip Chicks, I am out in the garden because this is one of my favorite places of all. Every plant and shrub and tree I planted myself, and it is my happy place. But I wanted to talk to you about taking care of your garden tools because it's real easy to forget about them, but when you need them to work for you, you want to make sure that they're ready to do the work. So make sure you subscribe because every week I am bringing practical video content that will help you manage your home. We're talking saving money, stress, and time in home ownership. So make sure you subscribe. Now, I want to talk to you about the cleaning of your tools, the sharpening, and the proper storing of your garden tools so you get more life out of them and you get more life in the garden. Before you get started, you'll need a few things on hand. Obviously, here's a tool that needs some work. Have screwdrivers on hand if you want to take your tools apart to get inside the mechanisms. An old toothbrush for cleaning, steel wool, a bowl of vinegar. You can also use a bucket for your bigger tools. And don't forget about using a 13x9 glass dish, which is great to lay your tools in and do a deep soak. I also like having a sanding block. And this is my double-sided file with a coarse side and a fine side. And I will even use a chisel to help scrape off some of the debris. And CLR is another go-to for getting rid of the rust, lime, and calcium buildup. And here is a really cool tool sharpening bit that I use on my drill. If you want, you can use the screwdrivers and you can take the screws out of the middle of your cutting tools and separate the two pieces. These are both very old. These are really rusted. I'm not going to have any luck getting these apart. I don't want to strip the screws. So I'm going to soak them while they are intact. So get the blades deep into a bowl of distilled vinegar. This one has already been cleaned. This side of the tool is a dark metal. This is not going to clean up, but this, all the rust has come off very easily after soaking. And like I said, you can use a chisel to scrape away some gunk. I will also use a degreaser sometimes to help get rid of that sap and other gunk that collects. So you want to let this sit for several hours and you'll see the vinegar starting to break away the little pieces of rust as it comes off of your metal tools. After it's been in the vinegar for a while, you can get your steel wool and you can really scrub, and you can see so much of the debris and buildup will come right off and really clean that tool up nicely. And like I said, use that scraping tool if you have some real thick gunk, and get the toothbrush down inside here so that you can get all of those rust buildups. Once your tool is clean, you'll be ready to sharpen. Remember, this is the stop side of the cutting tool. This is the blade part where the bevel turns in. So you're going to focus on sharpening this inside edge, not the back side where it's flat, but where it bevels down is where you will sharpen. So you can use a sharpening file like this. It is rough on one side, smooth on the other. The idea is that you want to push this way along the blade in one direction so that you sharpen it as you go down. You want to get in there and try to create the same amount of bevel along the entire section of the blade. Now that you can see the steel starts to shine up as it sharpens. You can also use the other side, the rougher side, if you need to because it's so dull. After you've done that rough edge, you may want to hit the back side gently just to get rid of any loose burrs. And that is sharp and ready for cutting. You can also grab your sanding block and use that to just clean up that edge so that you don't have any little metal pieces to get caught on your fingers. If you have some straight edge garden tools or your regular hand tools, you can use this sanding sharpening stone. So it is a sharpening stone on an attachment for the drill with the plastic edge, and you slide the tool that you want to sharpen into here, and the blade will get sharpened as the pumice stone goes around. So just stable it against your belly. And that's a nice way to get a nice, clean, sharp edge. Again, sanding block, clean up those little edges, and that is one sharp chisel again. You can also use your filing tool on shovels. You can see here that this shovel is really jagged and messed up on this edge. So you're not going to get a clean cut if you're trying to edge your beds. So this will help you do that very easily. Again, you want to move in one swift motion so that you create the bevel along the edge. And when you're finished, you'll have one nice, sharp shovel. For your tools that have wooden handles, it's important that you get the sanding block out and you sand and look for these cracks. If you have a big split up here, you may want to replace the tool, but some of these minor cracks, you can just sand down. It'll prevent you from getting splinters, and it'll often just smooth that out. And then you're going to treat your wood to a nice oil bath. After I sand the handles down, just make sure you clean it all off, and then you could use linseed oil or other fancy oils. I like to just use some plain old olive oil on a rag. You've got it around, it's easy enough, you don't need to buy another product, and just lubricate that handle, nourish that wood with some olive oil, and it'll help protect it and add life to your tools. And don't forget, when you're done cleaning and sharpening, that you can put a little bit of oil on your blade as well. And again, I use olive oil. You could use 3-in-1 or other household oils, but I am very happy to just use a little bit of olive oil. Good for our heart, good for our tools. And then wipe the excess off and squeeze it. Make sure that that oil gets into the inner parts of your tool base. So how do you properly store these tools now that they're clean and sharpened and ready to go to work? It's important that you keep them from getting damp, and make sure when you are using your tools that you dry them off before you store them. That's the first key, is to prevent rust from building up because you've put them away and they're dry. One trick that a lot of homeowners like to do is to get a bucket of sand and store your tools tip down into a bucket of sand. The sand will help keep them dry and prevent the rust. Now, you can also put a dab of oil in that sand and stir it all in. Now, another tip is just to make sure that you store them open so that they breathe and you don't have any moisture building up. So find whatever works for you and take care of the tools. As you can see, taking care of your tools only takes a few minutes every season to make sure that they are clean and sharpened and oiled and ready for whatever your garden throws at them. So this pair, these old red ones, I've had these probably 20 years since we moved into the house, and look, they still cut beautifully. And this black handled pair, well, these were my mom's, and she was an avid gardener and she has passed. So these are sentimental. So I will be sure to put in a little work every year to make sure that these stick around. And again, they are super sharp and ready to cut and get me back to work in my garden. So make sure you subscribe so we can tackle more inside projects and outside projects too.